So thank you, gentlemen. This has been a phenomenal journey. We've learned a lot about how actual implementation takes place and what the roadblocks have been of the past and how you have handled that. So with that, on behalf of Shared Services Forum, thank you very, very much for being here and sharing your experience.
Thank you very much, Mr. Gupta and everybody else. For the mementos, I'd like to request Mr. Manoj Madaseri, Director, Global Business Services at Molex, to please come up and give a memento to Mr. Atul Pratap. And I'd also request Mr. Karthikeyan Velu, VP Finance, Global Head ACE at Bharti Airtel, to also come up. So Mr. Manoj Madaseri with a memento for Mr. Atul Pratap. Mr. Karthikeyan Velu, VP Finance Global Head ACE at Bharti Airtel. To Mr. Krishna Ramachandran, please. Mr. Anil Kumar Agarwal, National Manager at Coca-Cola, to come up here, please. Mr. Anil Kumar Agarwal. To give a memento to Mr. Rajiv Mittal. Mr. Pramod Kumar Vaya, Vice President Finance and Accounts at VE Commercial Vehicles, to Mr. Sanjay Dora. And Mr. Amar SP, Group Manager Finance at Titan, to come up here. Mr. Amar. To give a memento to Mr. Sanjay Gupta, who also moderated this session. Thank you very much, everybody, all the panelists and Mr. Gupta. We now have a short 20-minute break for tea and coffee. So please return in a maximum of 20 minutes. Thank you. Bed jaiye, please. May I now invite on stage Mr. Sanjay Gupta with his introduction to SSF's TIBS model. Mr. Sanjay Gupta, again.
I'm supposed to stand here. Hi and good afternoon, and I'm hoping that everyone's had their share of caffeine, nicotine, whatever else we had sort of stepped out for. And now I have the extremely exciting job of sharing with you some absolutely new things that we've been up to at the Shared Services Forum since the past few months now, actually. So earlier in the day, you all noticed Mr. Kharge, the Honorable Chief Guest, unveil a little piece of paper, a cardboard, which has certain graphics on one side and certain descriptions on the other. And then during the break time, we actually placed one of these in each of the table centers, so that those of you who are inquisitive can actually pick this up and figure out what is it that we are talking about, what is it that got inaugurated and unveiled early today. What we are talking about, ladies and gentlemen, is something which is a little different from what we've been talking in the past on digital. Though it is digital, but what we are believing, and we believe, is that being digital by itself is not a complete story, or implementing digital environment is not the complete story. The complete story is actually to be able to cohesively build together your existing technologies, new age technologies, any underlying infrastructure, and the entire support systems together to be able to come out with one comprehensive program for you to be able to deliver value services. The intention is basically to be able to deliver value services as a service organization. And if your systems are geared in towards to delivering value services, then that is where the maturity really lies. And so we believe that we need to step one step back and really look at capabilities more than just simply maturity. And so we've created, and this at this moment is a model that has the insights of a lot of people from within the industry, and from us, from Shared Services Forum, from our knowledge partners, our value, and several other forums that we've interacted with. But we are learners for life, and so we'd like you to participate in this growing journey and fill in the gaps where you believe that this thing needs to improve upon. What do we talk about? We say that actually there are, sorry, where's the clicker? I'm sorry. Yeah. So we believe that there are two forms of dimensions, or two theories of dimensions, that need to be assessed in order to assess our capabilities. We as service organizations want to assess ourselves on capabilities and say where we are on a stream of continuous capabilities. Then there are two sets that we have to look at, two sets of objectives. The left or the right? Oh, it worked. Right. The model that we created for these two sets is called Technology Integrated Business Services Capability Model. And we are not talking about technology in itself or business services in itself. We are talking about the integration of these two. We are talking about how can these coexist and support each other to be able to provide seamless service to whosoever we are serving, and we'll come to that in a bit. There are two dimensions that we talk about. As I mentioned, there is this technology dimension, which is actually the elephant. And everybody basically, whenever you talk about digital, only refers to this one as digital. Technology in itself is then further broken into three, which is the existing systems that you have, the conventional systems, the ERPs of the world, so many others that are already existing. Any digital transformation journey cannot be complete till such time you do not have a coexisting infrastructure. Putting in a digital infrastructure does not mean getting rid of your ERPs. It means working with it. The second is what we call the next-gen technologies, which are the new technologies that are likely to be coming in, and taking the advantage of the new wave, so to say. And finally, the enabling infrastructure, the bedrock on which these two technologies have to be embedded, and finally, married together. On the other hand, we have these operational dimensions. The operational dimensions are, and many of this will be actually repeat or will resound with what Karthik had mentioned earlier in the afternoon today, that the dimensions that we really need to see from an operations point of view are the breadth and depth of it. And I'll just come back to this in a minute. Partnering and collaboration, also something in a way Karthik mentioned earlier today. And finally, people and culture. So when we look at capabilities and say, how capable is my organization in each of these dimensions. And these dimensions could be both technology as well as operational. At the same time, we also want to see what levels are we in terms of our capabilities. And these levels are referred to as how deeply have we deployed them, or how widely we have deployed them, or how have we deployed them in the first place. For what? For being able to provide services. And what are those services that these deployment levels are able to achieve? We've put that into our table as well. You'll find both these tables on the 10 card in front of you. We talk about these levels in terms of very basic levels and say very simplistically, levels are initiated, where the business just about begins. The next level is regulated, where the business has been able to transform some parts of the businesses and has made some standardization and so on and so forth. Aligned, where many business lines, many LOBs will get together and actually work as one, become a homogeneous, unanimous organization. Optimized, where they are not only working together, but they are working at their peak to be able to provide excellent customer service. And finally integrated, where they are able to provide long-term sustainable business value. The services, I've sort of missed out. So when you're in the initiated stage, the services provided are discrete. They are independent of each other. When you're regulated, there is a consistent service. And when you're aligned, there is a unified service. The entire organization works as one. And when you're optimized, it's the customer orientation which determines your service. And finally, the organizational value that you can create and bring with you over a long period of time. When we talk about dimensions, sometimes these dimensions become very difficult to really understand and say, okay, you're talking about conventional technologies. What does conventional technology really mean? And if we are going to use these terminologies to assess ourselves on our capabilities, then we need to have a very clear definition of what these technologies and these dimensions really mean. So conventional technology, we have given it a definition. And we say conventional applications are the ones which are already existing in the organization, and to be able to analyze and leverage them and align them with the larger organization and with the other technologies is the way, the direction in which it should go. Next-gen technologies are also defined. There's a lot of confusion about what are next-gen technologies. So we've given it a simple definition. All of that in front of you. The enabling infrastructure, as I said, the bedrock of how the conventional applications and the next-gen technologies can work together in tandem. Many of the enabling infrastructure technologies that are being used in the world today are actually next-gen in themselves. But they are enabling in nature because these are the ones which sew them together, they knit them together. Breadth and depth. So breadth and depth is to do with the length and breadth and the end-to-end nature of the transactions or of the implementation that you're intending to do. And this can be across a single service line or a single engagement or a single LOB to all the way to multiple LOBs, multiple engagements, depending upon your scope, all the way to enterprise-wide applications or enterprise-wide services. People and culture, again, no one can undermine the importance of this, but you could have a weak or a low impact people and culture kind of a competency, or you could be really evolved at an extremely high level. And I'll just share with you in the next second what we can possibly mean by that. And partnering. Partnering and collaboration similarly could either be extremely local or it could be covering the entire ecosystem. We have also gone ahead and created a grid. And this grid is not in front of you, but this grid explains the nature of every touch point. So when we say touch point, we say that while we have 6 pillars and we have 5 levels, then each of these levels and each of these pillars must interact at a point and have a meaning. The dimension and the level must have an assessment where you can actually go out and say, if you are at this stage and this kind of a touch point resonates with what your organization is doing today, it's time for you to say that you're on this level or the other. I can't read the fine print, but I'm hoping some of you will be able to read some of this. So, as you will notice, one of the things that we've done is that we have kept we've given a significant amount of attention to the various stages as we've moved up from the initiated up to the integrated at each of the dimensions, and taken the view of the people who are practicing as to how it can be assessed or placed. It can be assessed, and competency is a